Krishna Rasasthali Mataji.
Hare Krishna, good morning.
Good morning. So yesterday we stopped at all these descriptions of Jara and how Kalakanya is being introduced by Bhaya. And there's going to be descriptions of what is Jara. Okay, so let's see. Oh, all this is done.
Bhaya is telling Jara that he will introduce her to somebody.
Yeah, he'll introduce. Yeah, Bhaya is telling. He'll introduce to Prajwara, right? Yeah. Okay. This also is done. Yeah. Chandavega. Yeah, we should write down as Rajeshwari Adhika was saying, we should write down this kind of lineage. Who is Chandavega? Quickly passing away. And then five-hooded serpent and Time's daughter, Kalakanya, who cursed him actually. Okay. He sent cholera and corona to go and get Prajwara. So then she asks, who is this Prajwara? Okay. Would you like to read, Kamal?
Sure, Mataji. So who is this Prajwara? Asked Jara. Bhaya clapped his hands together. Madam, you are going to love Prajwara. He is both killingly hot and pretty cool. Bhaya threw back his head and guffawed. Oh, I can't wait to meet him. He is my older brother, deathly fever personified. I have big plans for the two of you. Soon cholera, typhoid, and corona returned with a tall, skinny, sweaty, haunted-looking man limping between them. Bhaya held out his arms in welcome. Come, dear brother, look what a beauty I have found for you. Saliva oozed from the side of Prajwara's foaming mouth as he dragged himself forward. Bhaya turned to Kalakanya. I can tell he likes you. Kalakanya pressed her lips together. She much preferred the muscular Swarti Bhaya. She turned away from Prajwara and whispered to Bhaya, Listen, Narada is Krishna's pure devotee. He said you would be my husband. How can you falsify his promise? Please personally unite with me. Oh, don't worry, dear lady. I will indeed honor Narada's promise. Jara beamed. Then you will personally marry me after all? No, I have decided to accept you as my sister. You will marry my brother. The two of you, aided by my soldiers, will imperceptibly destroy those who leave no time to hear and chant about Krishna, being too busy striving for worldly gain. Jara pouted. You just said you would unite with me yourself. How is that possible if I marry your brother? He winked at her. I'm born in the dynasty of irreligion. It's no problem for me to have union with my sister.
Oh my God.
Puranjana reborn as a woman. Puranjana leaves his body and takes birth as a pious princess. Narada saw the weariness on Prachinbhari's face. He was still handsome and powerful, but the onset of old age was starting to show, the wrinkles and thinning hair. It was time he gave up his futile pursuit of sensual pleasure and became serious about spiritual life. Narada said, My dear king, accompanied by Prajwara, Kalakanya and his soldiers, Bhaya traveled all over the world. One day they forcefully attacked Puranjana city, which was filled with all enjoyable items and protected by the old serpent. Jara and the host of fearful soldiers streamed in through its gates, causing havoc everywhere. Jara and Bhaya personally cornered and tormented Puranjana, who fully identified with the city and was absorbed in family affection. When Jara seized him in her embrace, his beauty faded. Due to his addiction to sex, his intelligence was clouded. His city was smashed by the Gandharvas and Yavanas, and he lost everything. The anguished king saw that his sons, grandsons, and ministers were abandoning him. Even his wife became indifferent and disrespectful. Weakened by Jara's embrace, he could do nothing. His lust for enjoyment had hardly diminished, but his ability to enjoy was finished. Everything became stale and tasteless. Ignorant of life's aim, he continued to fret about his wife and children. Although he wanted to remain in his once proud and delightful city, he was forced to leave. Desiring to please his brother Bhaya, Prajvara set the city on fire. Caught in that conflagration with all his family members, servants, and citizens, Puranjana was stricken with sorrow. When the city's protector, the serpent, saw he was helpless to defend the city from the blazing heat brought on by Prajvara, he decided to flee, just as a snake flees the hollow of a burning tree. Completely debilitated by the attacking soldiers, the serpent tried to leave but was checked by his enemies. He cried out in distress. Prachinbari's face paled. This would soon be his fate. When death approaches one's throat, chokes with mucus and air. The life airs try to escape, creating a rattling sound. He had seen it many times. Narada said, confronted with death, Puranjana thought only of his family members, home, wealth, and possessions. He could not forego the belief that he was his city and that everyone and everything in it belonged to him. Memories of happier times with his wife overwhelmed him and his eyes flooded with tears. As he was dragged away, he was overcome with anxiety for his family. His wife was encumbered with so many children. When he passed from his body, how would she maintain them? The distraught Puranjana recalled how his wife had served him, neither eating nor bathing before him. Deeply attached to him, she would silently tolerate his angry chastisements. He remembered how she would give him good counsel when he was distressed and grieve when he was away. Although she was the mother of many heroic sons, he worried how she would cope in his absence. Puranjana trembled with apprehension. His children depended upon him. What would happen to them when he was gone? They would be exactly like passengers aboard a sinking ship. Forgetting his real identity as fragmental spiritual part of Krishna, he lamented the fate of his wife and children. In the meantime, Bhaya drew near and seized him. The king's grieving followers lamented as Bhaya bound him like an animal and dragged him away, forcing them all to follow behind. The city's guardian serpent had already been arrested and was waiting, bound up outside the city. He was forced to follow as Puranjana was hauled away. Once the city was abandoned, it was dismantled and smashed to dust. Throughout his ordeal, Puranjana did not remember his friend and well-wisher, Avijnata, the super soul.
Avijnata.
He saw the many animals he had mercilessly killed in various sacrifices. They lined his path and pierced him repeatedly with iron-like horns. He felt as if he was being hacked apart with axes. Narada paused for a moment and observed the ashen-faced Prachinbari. The king sat with his hands clasped, his brows knit in concentration. Narada continued, men like Puranjana, who always think of sex, suffer continuously in material existence, forgetful of their spiritual identity. Since he had been absorbed in thoughts of his wife at the time of his death, in his next life, he took birth as Vaidarbhi, the beautiful daughter of King Vidarbha. In due course, she married the powerful king Malayadvaja of the Pandya province, who accepted her hand after conquering other princes. Please explain the significance of Malayadvaja's name and also that of the province he ruled. The name Malayadvaja signifies a great devotee who stands as firm as Malaya hill and through his preaching makes other devotees similarly fixed. The word Pandya comes from the word Panda, meaning knowledge. Unless one is highly learned, he cannot conquer materialistic conceptions. Prachinbari thanked Narada, who continued to speak. In Vaidarbhi's womb, King Malayadvaja feathered one black-eyed daughter and 7 sons, who became rulers of the Dravida country. They fathered millions of sons of their own who have been protecting the earth throughout Manu's lifespan and beyond. Prachinbari asked, please explain who the daughter, sons, and other descendants of Malayadvaja.
Thank you. Rasasthali Mataji, would you like to continue reading?
Thank you, Mataji.
Okay. Narada replied, his daughter is described as black-eyed because her eyes were always on Krishna. She represents a person fixed in serving Krishna. The 7 sons represent 7 processes of devotional service to him: hearing, chanting, remembering, worshipping, praying, offering obeisance, and serving his lotus feet. The king's many other descendants are the devotees who, to protect innocent people, continue to propagate the teachings of Krishna consciousness through an unbroken line of teachers. Prachinbari said, I remember once hearing there were 9 processes of devotional service to Krishna. Why do you only refer to 7? A very good question, dear king. There are indeed 9 processes. The 7 I just mentioned are the beginning of bhakti, which neophyte devotee must perform. The last 2 processes, friendship and full surrender, come later, when one has reached the stage of spontaneous devotional service. Generally, only the empowered, self-realized teachers can practice them. Why do you say generally, great sage? Can neophytes sometimes practice them also? No, one must actually be advanced. But sometimes such elevated souls do not reveal themselves as teachers. Prachinbari asked if there was any significance to the word Dravida. Narada said, in South India there are 5 provinces known as the 5 Dravidas, which are famous for Krishna Bhakti. In the future, many great preachers will be born in these regions. Prachinbari thanked Narada, and the great sage continued his narration. Malayadvija and Vedarbhi's daughter married sage Agastya. This couple had a son named Dhridachyuta, whose son was Idmavadha. Sage Agastya, said the king in surprise, is a real person. I thought this was an allegory. I am not referring to him. Here Agastya represents the mind, and as I previously said, Vedarbha's daughter represents steady devotional service. When the mind is absorbed in bhakti, one is fixed in his spiritual position with a determined vow, Dridhi Achyuta, and then produces good disciples, Idmavaha, who execute strict bhakti. Prachinbari ran his hand through his hair. It was hard to take everything in, but he was getting the idea. Nada said, the saintly Malayadvija divided his kingdom among his sons. He retired to Kulachala to focus exclusively on devotional service to Krishna. As moonlight follows the moon, his devoted wife renounced her home and family to follow him. In Kulachala were several sacred rivers, Chandravasa, Tamraparni, and Vatodaka. Maladvija would regularly bathe in these to purify himself within and without. He ate frugally from wild produce and underwent severe austerity, gradually becoming emaciated. In time, the king rose above duality, becoming equal in heat and cold, happiness and distress, and pleasant and the unpleasant, and impervious to the elements. By worship, austerity, and yoga, he conquered his senses, controlled his breathing, and fixed his mind on Krishna. He sat immovable for 100 celestial years and developed pure love for the Lord.
Okay, so what was the answer when he asked? I thought it was an allegory, and then
Mataji, that was Agastya, right?
Yeah,
That is a real person.
Yeah. And what does he say? What does he respond?
It's not an allegory, it's a real person.
Only that part, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, here.
Yeah. I'm not referring to him. Here, Agastya represents the mind. Okay. So he's not exactly quoting his history, but he's quoting him as the representation of mind. Okay. But I don't quite get it. Like so it is an allegory, right?
Mm.
That's my understanding, Mataji. Agastya is the mind and Vedarbi's daughter is the devotional service.
So he's not talking about the real Agastya. It's just talking about some other example in the allegory. Okay. Because there are these names, sometimes it gets repeated.
Yes, Mataji. So he's saying Sage Agastya, he's a real person. I thought this was an allegory. So he's saying, I'm not referring to Sage Agastya.
Right.
Here Agastya represents the mind. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Good to know that. Yesterday also some other name came up and we were thinking, is it the same person? But it's not.
Jara, right? Jarasandh, I think somebody asked.
Yeah. No, I think it's a different demoness. That's different. Okay, so we stop
Madhavi,
here.
can I ask a quick question? So Jara and Kalakanya, are they the same? They're referring back and forth. Is that the same person?
Yeah. Yeah, Jara and Kalakanya are the same, yeah.
Okay, thank you, Mataji.
I think they're like two names. There is, even in there comes all this dialogues in the fourth canto. Kalakanya Vacha, she's saying things like that. It's very, very kind of mystical, right? Even I'm thinking even planets, there are similar stories, like especially when when Bhaya says, oh, I follow a religion. I was surprised, it's interesting how, the back of the Lord, they say, the back of the Lord is a religion, they say, which means everything belongs to the Lord. Even Bhaya is serving the Lord only. So sometimes doing irreligion will force us to come and fall at the lotus feet of Krishna because we become so helpless. And I'm thinking like in astrology also, like, it's very, very mystical, the stories. For example, Moon and Mercury. Mercury is the son of Moon, S-O-N, son, the child of Moon, but it's out of wedlock, meaning actually the wife of Jupiter, which is Guru planet, is the mother of Mercury. So Moon God, he took Jupiter's wife and begot a child, and that's only Mercury. So Mercury doesn't really like Moon, but Mercury and Jupiter have a very complicated relationship. Mercury doesn't like. Mercury and Jupiter, they actually are quite okay because Jupiter, being the planet of righteousness and morality and large-mindedness, he raised Mercury. Although he's not the father, he raised Mercury. And Jupiter also doesn't hate Moon. It's so interesting, like Jupiter doesn't hate Moon. Although Moon took his wife and had a child with him, he still doesn't hate. And Moon also doesn't hate Jupiter. So it's very interesting. They are like, it's okay, kind of. So it's very like different level of reality. But Mercury is very agitated type. He's very smart, very smart. You can imagine the father is Moon God and raised by Jupiter as the father. So you can imagine he is special. Similar like with Saturn. Saturn is the child of sun god, and they hate each other. They hate each other. Sun hates Saturn and Saturn hates Sun. They don't get along with each other. All these interesting things, right? All this about sickness and what happens at the time of death. There are personalities who rule it. It's really true. These people are Kalakanya at the time, or Prajvara, Bhaya. These are all personifications of these diseases and these kind of symptoms. For us, it seems very impersonal, right? But they're not impersonal. They all have personalities that rule. Okay, so we'll continue tomorrow from Pure Love for the Lord. So we'll read more about Malayadvaja, how he attained perfection, and we'll read about the wife of Malayadvaja, how she did service. All right. Mataji, are you ready?
Yes, yes.
Please guide us.
Affirmation 8. I chant to please Radha and Krishna, not to gain anything material. It is said that if we chant the holy name to receive something material, or with the intention of making material progress, it is an offense to the holy name. The very mood, the very essence, the very meaning that the vibration carries is, I want pure devotional service. And if we hear the holy name speaking to us, he is saying that surrender is the most relishable and desirable position. The holy names, when chanted properly, naturally inspire our desire for pure devotional service. Therefore, if we are chanting the holy names but are not in this mood, we are out of alignment with the holy names. If while chanting we are asking Krishna to fulfill our material desires rather than connecting to the pure mood of the holy names, then this is impure bhakti. For example, Mayavadis use the holy names to merge into the Brahmjyoti, or Sahajiyas use Krishna to fulfill their material desires. We chant the holy name only to further develop the attitude of unmotivated service whose only motivation is to please Krishna. This affirmation is a reminder that we don't chant to try to become materially happy. Of course, in the beginning, we may have been motivated to chant to gain something for ourselves, but pure chanting requires that our only motive is to purify our heart, to please Krishna, and to develop our love for Him. If our chanting becomes mechanical, we can remember this affirmation. I chant to please Radha and Krishna. We may even wish to imagine Krishna is with us in His holy name and is enjoying hearing us chant and seeing us becoming purified. He also enjoys seeing our determination to continue to chant enthusiastically even when we are not tasting the holy names. He wants to see what we will do during these times. Will we give up, allow ourselves to get distracted, or continue with enthusiasm, determination, and desire to please Him, even when we are not experiencing a taste? The paradox is that if we are not experiencing a taste, just by chanting to please Krishna, we will experience a taste. Hare Krishna.
Jai. Harinam Sankirtan ki jai. Srila Prabhupada. I was thinking how sometimes we have different issues, health issues, relational issues, some problems, some desires. And one way I have found is that we don't have to ask Krishna, please fulfill this desire or something like that. But we can bring it to Krishna and say, Krishna, this thing is bothering me from chanting purely. So if you wish, please take it away. Like I was facing some sort of, unnecessary guilt and like that. So I told Krishna, if you don't want me to experience this, please take it away. And so that I can chant peacefully or I can chant with focus. So sometimes we think that, oh, my mood is bad, I don't want to chant. No, it's not like that. We can bring even the bad mood to Krishna, and then we can take shelter. Krishna, I'm feeling in such a bad mood, but I really want to take full shelter of you. So he's a person. It's not like mechanical thing that, like, as just the information Mataji read, is not a mechanical thing. He's a person. He can understand if we're in a bad mood, and he can help us also. So it's not like we have to go only with pure motivation. Otherwise, we should not chant. We can chant and ask the Lord to help us to come to that platform.